I Shubham Jain from the team CLJ, a drive for sustainable corporate world, and you all are watching this channel for simple analysis of the critical information under corporate and commercial laws. Friends, as you all know, this channel is created to impart legal education in simple and lucid manner. Today we feel immense pleasure to welcome Mr. Ashish Singh and Vagish Singh, who both are alumni of NLSIU Bangalore. They founded Capstone Legal in Jaipur, which also has office in Jodhpur. Capstone Legal was recently recognized as one of the fastest growing law firm in India by Vantage Asia Hong Kong. The firm has more than 12 reported cases before various courts, which include Supreme Court of India. Mr. Ashish and Vagish appear before more than 800 cases before various courts and the tribunals across the country. With this brief introduction, we welcome our esteemed panel for today's session. Thank you.
We would like to express our gratitude to Corporate Law Journal for inviting us for this talk. I think it will be particularly useful for law professionals as well as businesses to understand how consumer law is changing and what is the future. Thank you so much.
The theme for today's discussion is power and functions of the Central Consumer Protection Authority (CCPA) under Consumer Protection Act 2019. As we all know, the Consumer Protection Act 2019 repealed more than 3-decade-old law, that is a Consumer Protection Act 1986. The aim and the purpose of the Act 2019 is to protect the interest of the consumers and to save the rights of the consumers by establishment of authorities for effective settlement of the consumer-related disputes. The significant value addition to the Act 2019 is a proposal to establish Central Consumer Protection Authority. The purpose of the CCPA is to regulate, protect and enforce consumer-related rights. Also, to deal with matters related to unfair trade practices and the misleading advertisement. Today we feel very lucky to have with us Mr. Ashish Singh and the Vagish Singh, who are managing partners of the Capstone Legal, to discuss the power and the functions of the CCPA under Consumer Protection Act 2019 and their practical intricacies. Thank you so much, and please do not forget to subscribe this channel for upcoming more updates with eminent personalities. Thank you so much.
Before we dwell into the discussion of the powers and functions of the Central Consumer Protection Authority, I think we should understand the background in which this authority has been created by the Act of 2019. Over the course of the last decade and a half, the manner in which consumers interact with either manufacturers or sellers or retailers has completely changed. We've seen rise in social media advertising, e-commerce websites which are online marketplaces. And from a very rudimentary format of exchanges through emails and purchases through emails, now we can purchase goods on the click of a button. And this has had a paradigm change or a shift in the law which governs the interactions between a consumer and the service provider or a manufacturer. And the Act of 2019 wants to keep up with that change, and it attempts to keep up with that change by bringing about slight changes to the earlier regime. Now, the regime which existed in the Act of 1986 provided for a Consumer Protection Council and also provided for the Consumer Commissions as we already know them. The Consumer Protection Council is an advisory body. It's an advisory body which works like a think tank and provides forward-looking solutions to the ministry and the other policymakers. But that's about it. That's its authority. The Consumer Commissions, on the other hand, are a purely adjudicatory body, a dispute resolution body, where a consumer approaches the Commission for redressal of his grievances, and that's about it. The authority, the CCPA, which has now been created under the Act of 2019, however, is somewhere in the middle. It's a regulatory body which has sufficient amount of penal provisions backing it to make it an efficacious body. Now, to understand the authority, we need to know the structure of it first. this is a central authority. There is no state consumer protection authority. It would have regional offices, it would have expert members, which would have a Directorate General for Enforcement, it would have an investigative wing, and the powers of the CCPA would be exercised in three broad jurisdictions. The first one being violation of consumer rights as a class. And this term as a class is a condition which needs to be very carefully observed, because this is where it differs from the consumer commissions. It operates in a jurisdiction where the public interest at large is affected, where a large number of consumers are affected as a group, and that's the first category of its jurisdiction. The second category of its jurisdiction is unfair trade practices. Now, unfair trade practices have always been present in the 1986 Act as well, but the problem with the unfair trade practice provision was it was never used, because there are very few cases, for example, which have been filed for violation of a consumer's rights vis-a-vis unfair trade practices and consumer commissions, because these were very inter se between a consumer, a single consumer, and a final manufacturer or service provider. So that's something which has been added to the powers of the CCPA. Now, the third thing which has been added, and which is perhaps the most important of them all, is misleading advertisements. Now, misleading advertisements were completely absent from the legal regime in India, and they were governed by private bodies and bodies which did not have any affiliation with any government organization. So now, with the addition of misleading advertisements as a subject matter of the CCPA, as well as the consumer commissions, I suppose, it's important to note that the CCPA has a very wide and overarching jurisdiction over all these three categories of cases. Now, how does this exercise its jurisdiction? See, there's a complaint provision where it can act upon a complaint of a consumer. That complaint should obviously point out there's a violation of consumer rights which affects public at large, or misleading advertisements, or an unfair trade practice, or it has the power to take up suo motu action against a delinquent organization, a company, or a manufacturer, retailer, seller, or a service provider, or even an advertiser or an advertising agency. So in that context, it can take up suo motu cognizance of all the three earlier jurisdictions that we talked about. Now, what would it do once the complaint is received or it has taken suo motu cognizance? It has powers of conducting a prima facie investigation and making up its mind whether a violation has in fact taken place. Once a prima facie case is established, the CCPA can direct its investigation wing to conduct a thorough, detailed fact-finding exercise, which would be an investigation under the provisions of the CRPC. Now, that would also include powers of search and seizure. That would also include collection of documents and discovery of documents, or asking the delinquent organization to produce documents as evidence. And after it collects all this evidence, it would pass a formal order. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, is because the powers of the CCPA are further magnified in the nature of the orders it can pass. The CCPA has the power, once it has made up its mind and applied its mind, given an opportunity of hearing, issued a show cause notice, followed the principles of natural justice, and passed an order. That order can direct injunction, that order can direct compensation, that order can direct complete withdrawal of goods from the market. And these powers are extremely potent in controlling the entire market space, and specifically when we talk about the online market space. The closest example which comes to mind is the example of the Federal Trade Commission in the USA. And quite recently, the FTC has passed sanctions, which is actually a consent order against Facebook for violation of privacy rights. Very similar regime has been now created under the CCPA, and it has the potential of altering the interactions between consumers, manufacturers, and retailers, and specifically misleading advertisements.
The moot problem that we are discussing here is what is the requirement of CCPA when you already have consumer commissions. Now the primary requirement of a CCPA is because in case of a consumer commission, you can approach the commission when there has been a violation of your consumer rights. But in the case of CCPA, you can do that even before that happens and there's a perception that consumer rights might be affected as a class. The second reason is, locus standi being the first one, the second reason is evidence collection. Now, when you see any consumer dispute, there are always two parties and one of them is a weaker party in terms of resources. Now, to counter that, it is very difficult for an individual person to collect all the evidence against an all-powerful company. But CCPA gives you the power just to make a complaint before the authority, and CCPA would undertake the process of evidence collection, recording of statements, and whatever investigation is required to be done, provided that a prima facie case is made out. Now, this is one of the most powerful powers, as already has been discussed by Vagish ji, which the CCPA already has. And I think in the future, businesses have to be ready to meet those requirements. The third important thing is that consumer commissions are basically bound by stare decisis. Although they are consumer commissions, there is no strict foundation. But as the legal system progresses in our country, if a case is settled on a similar issue in a different consumer commission, the consumer commissions are reluctant to take up that issue if it arises out of the same transaction or if it has similar facts. In case of CCPA, that may not be true. So there has to be some uniformity in the manner in which consumer disputes are being adjudicated upon, and I think that CCPA plays a key role in that. So another important aspect which has to be seen is that consumer commissions can basically pass orders which are applicable between the parties. It is in personam, it's between two people. But CCPA can do that in rem. So an order of CCPA would be applicable to all, and this is particularly important in case of an advertisement or an unfair trade practice. I think for these reasons, CCPA is very much required in addition to consumer commissions as well. There's another scenario which we have to consider, which I would like to call low cost conundrum, which happens when the goods that you have purchased are of so low value that it makes no sense to drag the company or the manufacturer or even the seller to a consumer commission for redressal of disputes. In that case, we see that class action can be one of the ways to handle it, but that is also not an efficacious remedy. What CCPA can do is, upon a complaint or suo motu or on a complaint given to the district collector, they can initiate proceedings, they can start an inquiry and provide compensation to all the people that have been affected by that spurious product or a service which is not up to mark. I think that's a very powerful power that has been given to CCPA, and it will change the way in which businesses interact with each other, businesses interact with consumers, and also particularly the way advertisements are made in this country.